Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Nate Hatala from D&H Distributing, and I will be your host today. I am the practice leader for the Managed Services Group here at D&H, and I'm really excited to introduce a couple great guests we have today to share some really valuable information about the opportunities and the importance of security with your customers, and kind of explain how you can capitalize on that need that really exists in the marketplace today. First up, we'll have a message from Wes Spencer, who is the CSO at Connectwise, and likewise, he was also one of the co-founders and the Chief Information Security Officer for Perch. Obviously, Perch is one of the brands in Connectwise's portfolio of solutions. Immediately after that, we'll be sharing a product demo so you guys can really see what that solution looks like applied in real practice. So we have Dustin Perry, who's one of the members of their sales engineering team, that will be doing a live demo after that. And then at the end, we'll leave a little time for everyone to do some Q&A to answer any questions everyone might have. So before we get started with the video, we're going to push out a polling question real quick here for everyone. And this is going to just help us kind of assess where everyone in the audience is at on their managed security offering journey, so to speak. So once we get that, take a few moments and select your answer to that, and then we'll get started on the video.
Hey everyone, Wes Spencer here. I hope you guys are doing great. If you follow me on LinkedIn, you know I have a pretty nice video feed, but today I'm just using the laptop. Hey, I'm really glad you joined us today. We're going to be talking about some really important information about building your cloud security practice. And this is something that every MSP, MSSP, VAR, whoever you may be, really needs to go down this journey and understand the game has really changed from what we've done in the past to where we're at today. I've literally had this conversation with thousands of people across the world, and we're seeing a lot of systemic and similar things among all of us. And so we're going to talk about that today. And we're going to talk about what some of those solutions might be and really help you understand how to take your organization to the next level. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to share out my screen, and I'm going to walk you through just a few different things that I think are really, really helpful here. So first of all, we're going to talk really a lot about this, what I call a primer, right, of how we can engage with us at Connectwise to really deliver a service that's going to make a difference for your organization. And you know, at Connectwise, one of the things you may not know, we've spent over $300 million in the past few years, not just in acquisition, but in building products and building out a security team. Did you know the Security Operations Center at Connectwise is over 150 security analysts with plans to grow to 180 in the next few months? Like, most people don't know that. They're like, are you kidding? And I'm like, yeah, that really makes Connectwise rival even some of the largest Fortune 500s, of which I come out of. So think about that for a minute. It really helps you understand the size and scale by which we're at. And so if you don't know who I am, my name is Wes Spencer. I'm based in Tampa, Florida, which ironically is where Connectwise is. I'm the external chief security officer at Connectwise. And what that means is I work with our partners to help them survive the cybersecurity wilderness. I work through the challenges, the pain points, the problems that they have, and really help them go through this journey on their own. And I join alongside them, right? Giving them best practice ideas on how to do things and all sorts of wisdom and advice. I actually came from Perch Security. I was the co-founder at Perch, if you've ever heard of Perch. And I had a lot of experience there building that company and really taking it into the acquisition through Connectwise. And I'm also an old banker, so I think that's kind of important as well as we go through all of this. You can follow me on LinkedIn and on YouTube. Just search my name, Wes Spencer, and I'll come right up, and would love for you to follow me on both those platforms. All right, so let's start here as just an introduction into the topic. Let's talk about how the past few years have gone for us. And this is a loaded question, right? Because you may be thinking, yeah, I can tell you how the last few years have gone for us. We've had cyber incidents. Our clients have had incidents. We've engaged cyber insurance. Maybe some of you are like, well, we actually haven't had anything major happen and we feel kind of lucky. But regardless of whether you feel like you dodged a bullet or you actually went through literal hell on earth, you know the past few years have been different. And let's just try to normalize this for a minute, right? Let's just try to understand What's happened? So IBM and Ponemon produce a study every single year. This is literally just months old. So this is very fresh data. And they do a study called the cost of a data breach. And right here, what you see is it's about $180 a record is the cost of a data breach. In other words, what you need to think about here is this. Every single time there's some kind of breach of some kind, if you want some idea of like how to measure up the cost of that, it's about $180 a record. And a record in today's modern day is not like a social security number, a credit card only. In today's data breach notification laws, it's names, emails, addresses, phone numbers, any identifying information counts as a record. Multiply that by 180, and now you understand your scope in a breach. That's really, really expensive. They also show on average for small business, it's about $2.98 million. So now we know what we're stacked up against. Now we understand, okay, the game has changed because the costs have gone up for all of this. And cyber insurance isn't making it any easier as well. Take a look at this. So these are the top 20 in 2019 cyber insurance carriers that I'm listing for you here. And what I'm showing for you is the loss ratios inside of cyber insurance, especially for MSPs, but across the board. Notice that some of them have loss ratios at 100%, which is staggering to me, right? That means everything they put in, they lost. Many are in the as low as 30% and averaging in the 66%. In other words, these cyber insurance carriers are pulling back and saying, wait a second, we're not even sure we can offer cyber insurance anymore, given how high the loss ratios are and how poor of a job we're doing across the board. And so, and this, by the way, I ask all our partners at Connectwise, how many of you signed a new new cyber insurance policy in the past, 6 to 8 months? Those that raise their hand, I'm like, tell me more about it. And they're like, yeah, it's gone up 500%, or I have to do all these new things I've never done before. It's absolutely wild what's happening here. And, we feel a little bit like this video game right here. I don't know if you know this game. I am a child of the mid 80s and the 90s. And, growing up, the Nintendo Entertainment System was the greatest game platform of all time. And at least back then it was, right? And I remember it came out with this game right here, Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. I don't know if any of you guys have played that or not, but one of the greatest games ever made, top 10 for me. If you don't believe me, fight me on that, right? Like, this is a huge game for me. And this game was really hard because I could button mash my way all the way up to Mike Tyson, Iron Mike, but I could never beat him. And the reason I could never beat him was one punch from him and he takes me out. Like, literally, that's it. And all the other fighters, I could fight my way and hit and just figure it out, but not Mike. And the problem for us is we're kind of like Mac in the fight. Mac is undersized. He doesn't have the speed. He doesn't have the resources. He doesn't have any of the things he needs to beat the world's greatest boxer. By the way, have you guys seen Iron Mike lately? Like, that dude is still jacked. It's unbelievable to me. I would never, ever, ever mess with that dude. If I had to pick someone to join me in a fight, he'd be the guy, right? And here's where I'm going with this. We feel like Mac in the cyber fight, don't we? We feel like I'm undersized. I'm going against threat actors that are far more sophisticated, far more enabled. How am I supposed to win? The truth is, just like Mac could get a TKO against Iron Mike, we can win too. And the way that we win is by understanding, just like the way that you beat Iron Mike in this game, you don't button mash. You follow a plan to beat him. There is one way and only one way to beat Mike Tyson in this game. And you have to know that way, and you have to follow that way, and you can't break out of that way. And cybersecurity is the same way. Oftentimes it's following a plan. And that plan, in my mind, are things like playbooks, are things like cybersecurity or regulation, things like best practice and compliance. Let me give you a great example of this, like the cybersecurity framework here in the US, or the CIS top 20, now it's top 18 controls, and mapping through that blueprint to get to success. That is the way that we make it. And, a lot of times people I talk to think I've got it all together. Like, I'm okay. And especially your clients will say this too. Like, I don't need any of this. I've been doing security forever with a firewall and antivirus. I'm good, right? I don't need it. But let's talk about what's really happening around us, because I think this is kind of important. So take a look at this image right here. I ask, when I do this live with people in front of them, I say, what do you see? Give me some adjectives on what you see. And they'll say, oh, a dark, brooding day, kind of looks a little rainy. kind of one person even said kind of a serene kind of image. I'm like, yeah, I can see that for sure. And then I pause and I say, but you don't have the rest of the story. Let me give you the rest of the story. And I pop this button right here and they go, whoa. Like they literally will audibly go, whoa. And I'm like, what's the analogy? The analogy is we didn't have the whole picture. And my ability to respond correctly to the image was impacted by my visibility, or lack thereof, I should say. And cybersecurity is the same way. Oftentimes clients, even partners that I have helped go through a significant ransomware attack and breach, will say things like, Wes, I had no idea this was about to happen. I had no idea this was about to happen in my organization. I had no idea there was a bad guy in my network. And I had every chance to stop him. And I had no idea. For days they were it. It's kind of like that wave hitting, but we have no idea it's about to hit. So that's a challenge. We think oftentimes we live in this great cyber neighborhood. We know our neighbors. We've been here forever. It's a nice, clean neighborhood. Everything's fine. We've been here forever. And look at things. This is where I live. And the reality is sometimes this is where we actually live in the cyber world. And the key is we don't know it. And what's funny about a neighborhood like this? No slum was ever developed to be a slum. It happens by time, neglect, and socioeconomic issues. And cybersecurity is the same way. Maybe we started great, but over years of inaction and not doing anything, we're not where we need to be. See how that goes? And cybersecurity today is not like this. It's not like the guard that just stops everything. Stop, you're not getting in. That's bad. No longer are you getting in. I wish cybersecurity still worked like that. The truth is, take a look at this. It's a lot more like this. We got the little guard gate that goes down and people are like, really? I'm just going to drive right by it. And who are the people that drive right by it? Usually your own employees. In other words, we put up our little gate with our antivirus and our spam controls and our firewall, and our employees just zoom right past it. Not because they're trying to be malicious in most cases. They're just trying to get work done. They saw an invoice that they thought they needed to open, and it was a malicious PDF. They didn't know. They just drove right by your controls. And so if this is where you're at today, you're a target. We're all targets. Connectwise is a target. You are a target. Your clients are a target. You need to be aware of that. And you look at the modern day of how threats work, ransomware as a service has become the prolific method of attack, where you no longer have like one person making the ransomware. It's like a supply chain. Right? Like you look at how I buy a car off an assembly line, there's a huge supply chain that goes into that, the material inputs that come in, into how it's built on the assembly line and eventually outputted to me. It's the same way in cybercrime. You have those that develop the ransomware, those that are affiliates that run it, and ultimately victims. And because we have a lot of developers and an exponentially larger number of affiliates that do the dirty work, this is why we've seen such an increase in cybercrime. Did you guys know? I don't want you to share the statistic yet because we're still working on getting all of the data. But in Q4, we at Connectwise have seen more successful ransomware attacks against victims than in Q2 and 3 combined. Let me say that again. In Q4, we've seen more attacks with ransomware than 2 and 3 combined in our threat intelligence units. This is what we face. It's further compounded by this. This comes from Verizon. Verizon does a data breach study every single year. It's called the DBIR. It's free. You should Google it and research it and look at it every year. It's really good data. And this is one snippet of that data. One of the things that they look at is what they call the cyber detection gap. In other words, what's the amount of time when a bad guy breaks into our network from when we actually detect that attack and do something about it? That gap is the time that we have the ability to respond and stop something really bad from happening. That gap is our saving grace if we know about it and if we do something. Look at this, only 47% of SMBs can actually detect a breach within days or less. In other words, bad guy gets in and it takes them a few days, if not a week or two, to run ransomware. They have to figure out what kind of access they have, how to escalate that access, how to get administrative privileges before they can finally run ransomware. Those are all opportunities for us to detect and stop. And yet most of us can't, because we don't have the ability. And this is what I want you to think about today. When we're building a modern cloud security practice, we need to say, okay, we've got good prevention in place, but what are we doing with detection and response and recovery? Those pieces of the cybersecurity framework that we're often immature in. And I want to illustrate this for you right here. So you actually do this every single day in your own home. and you may not realize it. Think about your home. When I go on vacation, I lock my doors. I make sure that, my garage is closed and it's locked, all those good things, right? But do I really expect a bad guy's going to walk up and jiggle the door handle and be like, oh, shucks, Wes, lock the door again. I guess I better try someone else. No. What are they going to do? They're going to kick the door down. They're going to throw a brick in the window. They're going to pick the locks. They're going to go Santa style down my chimney. That's what they're going to do to get into my house. And so no one puts locks in place in their house because they expect it to stop a bad guy. You want to know why I put locks in? Because I have a neighbor kid that just walks in. He does. He doesn't knock. He just comes in. He's a good kid, but he doesn't knock. And so I literally lock the doors to keep him out, not to keep a bad guy out. And so because I operate under the assumption at some point a bad guy is going to get into my house, what do? I put a home alarm system in my home, right? I put up video cameras. I put up sensors, hallway movement, all this kind of stuff that lets me know when a bad guy has gotten into my house. And here's the thing, guys. No one gets mad at their home alarm system when a bad guy gets in the home. That's not the purpose of the alarm system. The purpose of the alarm system is to tell them when a bad guy got into the home. That's the purpose, operating under the assumption it's going to happen. And see, our current security that we have in place for the most part is door locks in our networks. Firewall, antivirus, spam controls, those kinds of things. What we're missing are the pieces that go way beyond that. And there's a lot of terms in here that we can sort of like demystify and distill for you today. Just ask my team questions as we jump into all of this. But things like SIM and EDR, things like network sensors that give us understanding what's happening around us, getting log aggregation from the cloud and from on-prem sources and from things like Office 365, right? All of this gives us really, really good data to understand what's going on, and combining that with threat research, threat hunting, and threat analysis. Remember I told you Connectwise's team is over 150 analysts. This is what we do 24/7, 365. What I call 2 a.m. on Christmas morning. While you're sleeping, we're working. And so as we jump into more specifics today, I want you to think about what are your gaps? What are you missing? What do you need to do in your organization to bring forward the controls in place, the technology in place, the people, the process, all of these things to mature your organization and your clients? Because it starts with you. You eat your own tacos, and then you begin to develop this for your clients. And the game has changed. You've seen what I've shown you today. Modern security must reflect the modern threat environment. And if you're behind the scenes, that's okay. You just need to know today is the day I start that conversation. Today is the day you reach out, and we at Connectwise are happy to help you go down this journey. We have tools that can help you in the risk assessment process. We have tools that can help you in all of these stages of your journey. So thank you guys so much for letting me do this intro today. And we're going to dive more into the specifics of how Connectwise can help you. So thank you guys very, very much.
All right. I think that was a fantastic overview, and certainly some great thought leadership from Wes Spencer. Certainly one of the foundational members, kind of the MSP security community there. I thought he brought some fantastic points about why security is important, and also kind of what the future of that looks like for service providers. And also, we realize, as a service provider, security is just one piece of the puzzle, right? So there's lots of different parts to go into this. So we'd love to, have you respond to our next polling question here and just understand a little bit more about kind of what the rest of your environment looks like as far as being a managed service provider. Certainly, the PSA tool being the primary or hub instrument in that, it kind of orchestrates all the other pieces and tunes. So, let us know kind of what you guys are at. We realize everyone's at a different step in their managed services journey. And then next up here, we have Dustin Perry. So I think Wes did a great job illustrating kind of the high level elements, but Dustin's going to share with us, like, how do you actually execute that using the Perch product? So how does the Perch product really lock into that message Wes shared with us and allow you to execute on some of those key concepts that I think he just outlined? So Dustin, with that, I'll turn it over to you, sir.
Awesome, thanks. Let me go ahead and get my screen shared out. And while I'm doing that, just a real brief introduction on myself. My name is Dustin Perry. I'm here with Connectwise. Actually relatively new to this role, but I came from a state and local government as a user of Perch. So I definitely got kind of a unique view on it. I've used it for the last couple of years, and it's it's a really great tool to give us that, as Wes said, the full visibility into everything that's going on in the network. And so that includes, everything from all your on-prem stuff, your workstations and servers, all of your network devices, those routers, switches, firewalls. And then we've even got Perch Sensors, which can be a hardware or a virtual appliance. And they're going to sit on your network off of a span or a mirrored port where we can see the traffic that's going by, and we can alert on those specific signatures that are bad. And we're going to send those alerts up to the Perch platform. As the world is really changing now, we want to make sure we've got visibility into those people working from home as well, where we can't always monitor, what's going on in their network. So we've got what we call the Perch Log Shipper, and it's a simple executable. You can install it on your endpoint devices, those Windows, Linux, or Mac laptops, desktops, and it's going to gather the logs from those devices. And that includes the system logs, the process logs, and even the file integrity logs, so we can really see what's going on the endpoints, who's creating files, deleting files, that kind of thing. And that really comes into play with a lot of different compliance needs out there. We do have the ability to ingest data directly through several cloud integrations as well. So a lot of the big ones, G Suite, Office 365, SentinelOne, we're able to pull that data directly in and then use it with the logs that we're getting from everything else to really get that full visibility into the threats that we see on your network. All of this is backed by our SOC. If you've ever managed a SIM before, it's definitely a full-time job. And we know you guys are busy with your other full-time jobs, keeping the money coming in, managing all of the services for your customers. So we've got the SOC on the backside that's really going to do a lot of that care and feeding of the SIM itself, and also tune out a lot of that noise that you see with those traditional SIMs. And the last thing I like to mention here is the Perch Marketplace. And don't worry, everything in there is completely free. And it's really just a collection of those pre-made reports and dashboards. So if you've got a customer with those compliance needs, you can go into the marketplace, go into our compliance section, and choose the report or dashboard that you want. So you don't have to create a lot of that stuff from scratch. So with that being said, we'll go ahead and hop right into the platform itself, kind of show you what that looks like. I did mention the integration. So this is just a list of some of the cloud integrations where we have where, we're bringing this data directly in. Most of these you can set up within a minute, and we're going to be pulling in that data, just giving us more things to look for and giving us that full visibility into the network. So when we hop onto our Perch platform, you've probably seen some dashboards before. One thing I like to point out from here is it is built with that multi-tenancy in mind. So you guys, you definitely be the managing provider here, kind of have that overall view into everything, and then you can really drill down into the specific organizations, build them out their own dashboards, because every customer is going to be a little bit different. And then very quickly, you've got your open alerts, your closed alerts, kind of some recent stats. And I always like to point this section out as well, because it's something that I used quite a bit as a user of Perch. So I mentioned I came from state and local government, and we were part of the MSISAC. And it's just an information sharing community. Other states, if they're seeing threats from certain IP addresses or bad hashes, they're going to share that out. And most verticals have their own ISACs. There's a lot of information sharing communities out there, intel communities, emerging threats, Department of Homeland Security, Cisco Talos. We've got our own intel community as well. And what we do with this information is we ingest it into the Perch platform. When we ingest it, we're going to send it down to the sensors, and that just gives us more to look for across your environment. Before I had Perch, on Monday mornings, I would get the email from the MSISAC saying, hey, these are the bad IPs, these are the bad hashes other states are seeing. And as I was eating my breakfast, I'm going to search our firewall logs, make sure I'm not seeing any of those bad IPs. I would dive into our EDR solution and make sure we're not seeing the bad hashes out there. But that was kind of it. It was a one-time thing. Monday mornings I would do it. And then, as working in IT, you've got a million other things you need to do the rest of the week. So next Monday come around, I get the new email and I do it again. To me, before that, the information there wasn't very valuable. We weren't using it very well. When we had Perch, we set that up, and now we're just automatically ingesting this intel anytime it comes out, and now we're just always looking for it across the network. So I always like to point out the intel community section. just because it was something that I used very heavily. So let's go ahead and move on to the alerts. Obviously, you're going to want to see alerts when specific things happen from all of these logs that we're getting. And anything that triggers an alert will first come into this not reviewed tab. And this is where our SOC is going to start that initial triage process. We're going to tune out the noise. From here, it can kind of move to one of these other statuses. If we know right off the bat, hey, this is a false positive, we're going to go ahead and close that alert. You don't have to spend any time on it. You're not going to have to mess with any of that noise there. Depending on the reason it was closed, we may work on tuning that alert better for your environment, or maybe make a recommendation that, hey, this is something that doesn't really matter for your environment. You don't need it. We'll go ahead and tune that out, turn it off. Investigating is primarily used when we need to do some more digging. We need to look into this, maybe pull some other logs from some other devices, or do some more research on the alert itself. So we're going to put it in investigating. That way, if you log in, it's getting worked on. On hold is primarily used when we need some more information. One of the things I saw a lot, was a user account being created in your Windows environment. That's important to know when that happens. With that, we're gonna see that alert come in. We're gonna still do that triage. Say, hey, this user created this user account at this time. Is that normal for your environment? We don't know just based on that general information. So that's why we're gonna put it on hold and reach out to you. And the last status we have is our escalated status. And these are those true positive alerts where there's some form of remediation that needs to be done. We're seeing something going on here. And one of the best things about the Perch SOC is when we escalate an alert to you guys, we don't just, say, hey, true positive, good luck. As Wes mentioned, we're over 150 people strong now. So we're doing this stuff day in and day out. We're seeing a lot of different things for all of our different partners. So when we escalate an alert, you're going to have comments from the actual SOC analyst that worked on this alert with a basic remediation guide. Hey, I'm your analyst. This device has this type of malware. Please see the following remediation guide. So you don't have to be that security expert to come in here and handle these alerts. And that was another thing that really benefited me as a user of Perch. Our security team was very small. We had 4 people supporting, up to 15,000 endpoints at any given time. Because of these notes from the SOC analysts, we were actually able to have our entry-level security analyst on our team handle most of these alerts, and that freed up our senior guys to do a lot more of the proactive threat hunting and the looking into the more serious alerts. So that's a huge benefit, kind of having that knowledge. And if you have any questions, you can comment right in the platform to the analyst, or of course, email or call the SOC at any time. So where do we get all of these different alerts? They're in our event notifications, and we've got hundreds of these pre-built out for you, so you don't have to build them. You can come in here and see exactly what we're looking for, turn the alerts on or off, modify how often are we looking for them. And we've even got more in the marketplace. So if you had a specific technology that you turned on with that integration, Sentinel-1, we can turn on some different Sentinel-1 alerts. One of the things I like to point out here is how easy it is to customize these alerts. You don't have to be a SIM expert. Take the user account created for an example. If we want to kind of modify this to see a little bit more, we can clone this pre-built rule. Looks like we've got a couple in here. And when we clone it, you can change, the normal things, name, description, severity. If it lines up with a MITRE attack framework, we can put that in there. But then what do we want to do when this alert triggers? Typically, we're going to want to create a Perch alert, and that's what puts it in that not reviewed bucket, so our SOC can start that triage process. We can create tickets with Manage and Freshdesk. We integrate with normal email notifications, of course. Slack and Teams. If you had a Slack or a Teams channel set up to monitor new user accounts being created, we can post directly to it, and we can even send a text message. So I always like to make that joke, you probably don't want to get texted every time a user account's being created. That wouldn't be fun for most environments. But maybe we want to modify this a little bit and not only look for, the 4720 event code for the new SAM account name. We also want to look for that account being added to a specific group, or that user account being created at a specific time. Then maybe you do want to turn on text messaging for that. And it's that easy to do. If you've got any questions, reach out to the SOC and they can help build out these alerts for you as well. All right. The next area we're going to go to is the marketplace. And I mentioned this before, don't worry, everything in here is completely free. There's no paid add-ons or anything with Perch. But really, this is just a collection of those pre-made reports and dashboards. So you don't have to create them from scratch. You onboard a new customer with some compliance needs, go to the marketplace, check out our compliance section. We've got 9 or 10 different dashboards already built out for you, HIPAA, NIST, FFIEC, all the big ones there, even the file integrity one, which I've got pulled up and I'll show you in just a moment. But you can come in here and just install this and you're good to go. You don't need to create any of these things from scratch. One of the other ones I really like to point out in the marketplace is our Connectwise Crew. And these guys are awesome. They have, one of the coolest jobs. They're always looking at the newest breaches, newest malware, and writing new rules so we can detect these things in your environment. If a brand new malware comes out today and we discover it, we're going to start reverse engineering it and writing these rules out. If you've got, 30, 60, 90 days worth of logs in your Perch environment, we can use this new rule to detect this brand new malware at any time in the past across all of those logs. So it's really great to subscribe to this community, so we're always bringing in, these new alerts. All right, I've got a couple dashboards pulled up here so I can kind of show you what these look like and how easy they are to interact with. So this one is our file integrity monitoring dashboard, and this one is bringing in data from those Perch Log Shippers that are installed on the endpoints, looking at all the files that are being modified over time. So we've got, a nice little graph here that shows the count of files being modified. We can see the files themselves here in a nice little pie chart. If you hover above any of the sections, we can see it looks like our Windows update.log file has been modified just under the most here at 48% of the time. And if we scroll down here, typically I really like this file action pie chart as well, because it's going to break down the actions that are taking place. It looks like in our environment, we've only seen updated files in the last 24 hours, but normally we would be able to see those updated files, our files being created, deleted, or attributes being modified. And then we've got kind of the details down here. And it's very, very easy to interact with this dashboard. So right now, we're looking at the last 24 hours. If we want to look into this spike, this doesn't look normal. You don't have to memorize any specific commands or anything. You can just highlight the spike. It's going to automatically update the dashboard now to go from, instead of the last 24 hours, 5:20 to 6:04 yesterday evening. So now the whole dashboard is going to update based on this new information. I've got one more dashboard pulled up, and this is our Office 365 one. And with this, this is what our SOC actually uses. Very quickly, you can see your successful logins and your failed logins for your Office 365 environment. Then what we're doing is we're taking the IP addresses of those logins, geolocating them, and putting them on a map. You can see the little green guy is going to be our successful logins. If we had any failed ones, we'd see the red X's. If we want to see who's logging in from that specific location, we can hover our mouse over any of those little guys. Hey, who's logging in from Oregon? We're now going to query that data. So you don't have to, again, memorize those advanced queries. Just hover above it. Scrolling down, with that Office 365 environment, we're seeing a lot of information with that direct integration. We're looking for any email forwarding rules being set up, unfamiliar sign-ins. So, if you log in every day from Florida at 8 a.m., and now all of a sudden we're seeing a login from Russia at 2 o'clock in the morning, we're going to alert on that information. And then, of course, just kind of some other ways to visualize it. The little donut chart, you can see all your successful logins, and we break it down with a table. So the user ID, how many times they've logged in, and what is the overall percentage. And then scrolling down a little bit further, we've got the actual IP addresses and the table already here. So this is one of those pre-built dashboards. If you want to make it fit your environment a little bit more, say you want to see this, but you've got some G Suite as well. You want to kind of combine the Office 365 and the G Suite into one dashboard. You can edit the dashboard very easily. Edit, you can see it goes into kind of an edit mode, and then we can add any of those visualizations for any of the integrations that we have. So we can search for G Suite or Sentinel-1. If you wanted to add some Linux information here, you can do that. It's very, very easy to do, and then you can save it out as a new dashboard. And of course, you can use these for reports. That's huge in the sim world. I mean, we want to be able to share this information in a way that makes sense. So we can share it out, PDF report, and you can even schedule these out. So it's very, very easy to do and very easy to interact with this information. So with that being said, I know it's a lot of information, in a very short amount of time, but I'll go ahead and hand it back over and hop on for any of those questions.
Dustin, thank you so much. That was an excellent overview of the product, and I think it was a great compliment to Wes's section. As I know, often we hear a lot of this guidance or strategic information about what we should be doing, but we don't really know how to actually execute that within, here again, a specific product or platform. So I think you did a great job really illustrating how the different areas within the Perch platform can help support that larger security strategy. Certainly, hopefully everyone found Wes's and Dustin's message today be something that really resonated with them, and hopefully everyone understands the importance of security monitoring and how that is really going to help provide additional value to your customers. So the obvious next question is how would I get started with Perch today, right? So I just want to call out a couple things. We're going to push out a polling question here in just a second. If you're interested in us contacting you, please just go right ahead and select that you'd like to be contacted. But we have a great team of sales specialists here at D&H, and you can access them at any time through managed services at dnh.com. If you just drop us a line, we'd be happy to kind of orchestrate some communication between ourselves, the great team at Perch. We have a great kind of co-sales motion, so you can feel confident that we're always going to be able to place you with the right Perch products and right size it based on your needs. Certainly the sales cycle has a good bit of discovery involved in it, just to make sure that we're really going to kind of check all the boxes for what your use case is. I didn't know if anyone had any specific questions for Dustin while we kind of have him at our disposal here. If so, just feel free to enter those into the Q&A box. And if not, likewise, you can certainly contact us here at managed services at dnh.com, and we'll be happy to get you in touch with everyone. And I guess on that note, thank you guys all so much for attending. Dustin, thank you so much, and we'll be sure also to pass our thanks along to Wes when we talk to him next. And I hope everyone found this time today valuable. So thank you, and I hope to hear from everyone soon.